y'all, welcome to my channel where I watch movies and then I give my honest review by answering 3 categories. The first one is the one thing I loved about the movie. The next is the one thing I hated about the movie. And the last is the one thing I would change about the movie. And so today we are reviewing Away We Go, starring John Krasinski and Maya Rudolph. So with that said, grab your popcorn, grab your candy, and let's dive on in. So Away We Go is about a couple named Bert and Veronica having their first child. Once they find out that they're having a child, they move over to closer to Bert's parents' house so they can get that extra support from their parents as they raise their first child. Now, one day randomly, Bert's parents let them know that they're moving to Belgium for 2 years. What a convenience. Struck by this news, the couple take this as the opportunity to go find their forever home. And so what they'll do is they're going to travel to multiple places where their friends or relatives live and get an idea of the place, and also to see who they want to help support them as they're raising their first child. Of course, life is messy, and so when Bert and Verona go see their friends and families, they get into the middle of some of their mess as well. It does create a lot of comedic moments and some pretty heart-wrenching realities. The one thing that I loved about this film was that it showed the complexities of life. I'm a huge sucker for films that are showing more of real life. I just think it's so beautiful to be reminded about the dull and mundane in life, because that's happening every single day. And I just find that so fascinating. While there's nothing dull or mundane about the scenarios that Bert and Veronica go through, it does show the chaoticness of different families. It's really great because both Bert and Verona are really doubting their own selves as a couple. They are just so concerned about that they're just a bunch of failures. So they're in their mid-30s and they don't feel like they have their lives together at all. They kind of live in a dumpy place. Bert is looking for a new job, and so there's just a lot of pressure as they're about to have a kid. Like, well, they don't have a really good house or anything, and the people around them are living in some pretty gorgeous houses. And so you can see that that struggle that the couple is experiencing. And I just find that's quite fascinating to watch. My favorite part is as they go to all the different friends and families, they get a snippet of what actually happens with friends and families, because honestly, a lot of the times we just look at someone else's family and think they're so perfect. But when you actually get to be a fly on the wall for a moment, you see that they have their own struggles and quirkiness. My favorite part during those conversations that Bert and Verona have is that they start realizing that they don't need to live a perfect life. And so you start seeing that throughout the film. They just need each other, and that's what they quickly realize. And I really think that the screenwriting, the cinematography, and the music all together really captured the preciousness of each moment that they experienced. And that's what I really loved so much about this film, because there were so many moments. You start realizing life is all about these small little moments. So that's what I really love. The one thing that I hated about this film was that it did a lot of telling versus showing. You begin to learn Bert and Verona's past as they get to meet with other people, but instead of showing any flashbacks, what the film does is they just talk with their friends and family, and they'll say things like, oh, do you remember this? Or sometimes what they'll do is not say anything at all. Because, you know, in real life, if you already know someone and you have these experiences or the past, you don't need to forefront a lot of exposition with each other because you already know it. And so I see what the screenwriter was trying to do in those situations, especially like Verona when she meets her sister. they don't really talk too much about their past. It's just like remembering like how they felt and stuff. And so again, I just didn't think that was super effective, mainly because we didn't get enough information about the characters. And I wasn't really falling in love with these characters in the beginning. I didn't really care too much about the characters. And it was only until maybe towards the middle when I started actually really liking these characters. So it took me some time for me to even start enjoying Bert and Verona as they got into see other people, and I started seeing how they themselves as a couple started connecting. That's when I really started caring about them. But so that's the one thing that I just wasn't a big fan of. I just wish there was a lot more flashbacks, because at least with a flashback you don't even have to say anything, but you get just little snippets of their lives. And so I can then start picturing who they are really as a person, even from seeing a snippet of their past, because there was none of that, which I totally get the screenwriter chose not to have any flashbacks. But I do feel that it took away a little bit from me being able to connect with the characters a little bit more, because then I'm relying on the characters telling me that I actually care about them versus the film showing me that I care about the characters. Before I start talking about the one thing that I would change, I do want to give you a quick warning that I am going to be spoiling um, the movie. So if you haven't watched it, I would view with your own discretion. If you're someone who loves to get spoiled, fine, watch the rest. But if you don't, I just want to give you a warning right now that I am going to be spoiling a bit of the film, because there are some things that that I just would change. One of the biggest plot points in this film is that Bert wants to get married, but Verona doesn't want to get married. And so throughout the whole film, it is a discussion that both the characters have. And they don't really argue too much about it. It's more like they just discuss, which I thought was quite interesting. It just really shows how patient Bert is. And I just really love that so much about his character. In the end, Verona is pretty adamant about not wanting to marry because her parents died when she was in college, so they wouldn't be able to attend her wedding, obviously. And so that is a huge thing that has been pulling Verona back from not wanting to marry. Just because she wants to have that special day with her parents, she's always envisioned it, but because they're not here anymore, she can't have that, and so she would feel pretty guilty having that day without them. I wish that Verona actually changed her mind and wanted to get married. The reason why I say that is that when they were having so many moments after they were hanging out with some relatives or friends, they started bonding a lot closer. They started sharing a lot more of their fears with each other, and you can see they were growing as a couple. So the couple had a really precious moment towards the end of the film. They're on a trampoline and they're kind of giving their vows to each other, where they're just promising each other that they're not going to leave, they're going to take care of each other, they're going to take care of their daughter, little things like that. And after having that conversation, I just feel like Verona should have kind of accepted marriage, but she didn't. And so I just felt that her character fell flat because of that. Now, I do realize that this is a very hot take, because everyone has very different views on marriage. And so I totally get and see where other people are coming from and can say that they don't agree with my opinion, because I think Verona should have married. You might not, and that's totally fine. The reason why I think that Verona should have accepted marriage is honestly because they bonded so much, and after having their vows, I would feel like there should not be a reason why they wouldn't marry. They're going to live with each other, they're going to support each other, so why not just marry? One of the biggest critiques I had also with Verona not wanting to marry, the whole reason why she didn't want to marry is because her parents wouldn't be there. You can see that her character was holding on to her parents deep inside, and she didn't want to share that with anyone. She did have a really amazing moment with her sister at a store in a bathtub, where you did get to see a little bit of her feelings of her parents come out then. But for the most part, she has kept her feelings hidden from the whole world. The reason why I felt that Verona's character felt flat is because it didn't seem like she coped with her parents' death at all. When it comes to storytelling, most satisfying stories has a protagonist who has gone through experiences, they've learned, they've overcome, they have a new perspective, something about them has changed in the journey that they went through. And so that makes them more of a well-rounded character. Verona's character arc was just not satisfying to me, just because I think she did not let go of her past. She's still struggling with the emotions of her parents' death. And so to me, her accepting marriage would have shown me that she has dealt with her grief, in that she has grown as a character. Now, here's the thing. I totally get it that my opinion is a pretty hot take, and everyone has different ideas. And I know you're probably gonna say, well, in real life, there are some people who don't change. And I totally get that. But when it comes to storytelling, I do think that the protagonist, like a really good, effective protagonist, does change in some way in the film. I don't have enough evidence to believe that Verona's character actually did change. I do believe that Bert changed because he did accept at the end that he's just never gonna be able to marry with Verona, and he is just like, fine, I'm still gonna do life with you, I'm still gonna support you, I'm gonna listen to our daughter, all that stuff. And so I felt pretty satisfied with Bert's character at the end, and I do feel like he was a very well-rounded character. But on the other hand, I just don't think there was enough evidence to support that Verona did change. Overall, I actually really enjoyed this film. I do think that the film grew on me over time. It was a slow start, but I'm really happy that I just stuck with it because there was so many precious moments in it. And I actually really loved all the side characters. Every single person they met was quite interesting. There were some really funny people in this film, and then there was just some really sad stories in there that really tugged at my heart. And so I really do appreciate the dynamic of all the different side characters. Because one thing that I thought was interesting is I thought more of the side characters were more interesting than our protagonist. And you do have some films where your protagonist is kind of a base character and everyone around them is way more interesting. So, and I totally think that's how this film approached their protagonist. But again, I still really liked it. Another thing that I really loved was the song choices in this film. Personally, for me, I am a sucker for acoustic songs, and this film had so many acoustic songs, and they just played it along some really great B-roll, showing life. I loved it so much. Though I personally wasn't a big fan of Verona's decision not to marry, I totally understand why they chose not to go that route. It does seem like in her character to continue not wanting to change with that. So I totally can see why. Though personally for me, I was just not the biggest fan. I would totally have changed it, but I can see why. So don't be hating me too much in the comments. I really thought the final moment with Bert and Verona was so beautiful. It really did tug at my heartstrings. I gave this film a 3.5 on Letterboxd. To me, I think the film was slightly above average and there's a lot of room to improve. But overall, I mean, it was an enjoyable film. I had my popcorn. I was having a good time. If you like this review, go ahead and give me a thumbs up and let me know in the comments what film you would want to see me review, or you can let me know what you disagreed with something that I said, you have a different opinion. I'd love to hear all about it. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss out on any of my reviews. And then until next time, go ahead and stock up on that popcorn, go stock up on that candy so you're ready to enjoy my next review.